Hi. In this video, I want to talk about a subject about challenge and how it doesn't mean that it's not suffering. I remember this mentioned in Minda video, I think, and it was some guy named Snake Plisskenist, and he said, "Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. I can't wait to fight the challenge." And, along the same lines, I want to mention something about, how people say, well, if death, if I'm so in such a bad position, I'll automatically just kill myself because it was so bad I couldn't help but kill myself. Remember, you have to get to that point where you have no choice but to kill yourself. It doesn't mean it's not suffering because it automatically means that you're going to kill yourself if you're going through so much adversity. And it doesn't mean just because it's a challenge, if you're not quite to that I want to kill myself point, doesn't mean that it's not suffering to reach a point where you feel like it's a challenge if you want to and that you want to get out of. So a challenge, if it's enough to consider a challenge, then it's bad enough that it's suffering that you don't want to experience. So you're not thinking about it as a challenge at that point. You're thinking about it as I'm in a very bad position, and at that point, it's not really suffering. If you view it as a challenge, if it's a challenge, it's not suffering then, buddy. It's a challenge. Yes, you're fighting something, but you're not really suffering. It's real suffering that we're talking about here. It's about actual pain and suffering. The challenge, you're not going to be sitting here with a broken leg. I can't wait for that challenge. I got a broken leg. It's just such a challenge. But the challenge of putting the bone in back yourself or something? Is that the challenge you're talking about? What challenge are you talking about? Racing the pumping iron, where you're what punching? What are you doing? You're it's not a real. You're talking about like what pumping iron, or what running a race or something, getting the pump out of that, and all of a sudden that's what you consider a challenge. It's not the same thing as if you have a broken leg, or if you're suffering psychological issues, or you're doing this or doing that. You're not thinking about the challenge when you're really suffering. You're thinking about I want to get out of here. And if it's a challenge, oh god damn, I really hope it's not that much of a challenge. Because like I mentioned before, it's better to maintain a neutral instead of going so high and then so low. Because in the end, so low, so high. That's funny, so low. It's better to maintain a medium, as opposed to going in either direction. And almost like mood swings. It's better to have no mood swings than to have a lot of mood swings. Why not just stay in the middle, as opposed, or at least closer to the positive side, or closer to the lesser negative side, as opposed to just going up and down. Better to make them smaller, but generally speaking, that's in life's hands. To a certain extent, it's in your hands, but it's something that we have to find a way to better maintain, I suppose. So yeah, just because it's a challenge doesn't mean that it's not suffering. It's still suffering, um, but that's not. But that's not the real point. The real point is if it's a challenge, and you're trying to battle it, and you're motivated because of its challenge, then it's not real suffering because you're being distracted by the fact that it's a challenge. You're challenging the sickness you have. You're challenging the broken leg you have. You're challenging the schizophrenia you're suffering from. You're challenging the this. You're challenging the emotional issues you have. What, the death of your loved one. You're challenging like it's a gift from God to give you a challenge to make you have more meaning in your life. And that's the thing that's giving your meaning, is the challenge of what suffering. Even if you were, it's the challenge of a negative to make you feel like more of a positive. I can't wait for this challenge to satisfy this challenge. And if these people believe it's so much of a fight and so useful and so satisfying to get out of a challenge, if that's the way they're looking at it, then why are they? How can there be a real positive? Why would they want to fight something negative if there's a real positive? If there's a real positive, why would you not just want to stay in the positive? Why would you want to sit here and fight the challenge that's so painful? Challenge accepted, motherfucker. Well, yeah, guess what, motherfucker? I think you just proved to yourself, or confused yourself into saying, oh, crap. Oh, man. Did I just say that? But he doesn't really even realize the implications of that statement. It says, if I'm going to get so satisfied off this challenge that I'm finding so much suffering, the fact that he's confusing a broken leg or whatever kind of suffering as a challenge, or being eaten alive or by parasites. Challenge, yeah. Inevitable death, yeah. Challenge. There's no challenge when you're going to die inevitably, motherfucker. Okay, motherfucker. Okay, you're going to die. There's no challenge. The fact that you're mixing those two things up, confusing the fact that, you inevitably dying is not a challenge, and the fact that if you imply that challenge accepted, and the challenge is some kind of pain, which is not a real challenge, it's suffering then. But the fact that he's confusing suffering for a challenge, and the fact that a challenge implicates some kind of, yes, I'm positive, I feel like I'm motivated because of a challenge, proves that why would he not just want to stay in a positive state, if or viewing these things as a positive state, if the challenge is so satisfying to get rid of or to satisfy? Is that the thing he's viewing as a positive, is to fight the challenge? I think it's just pointing out the challenge that he's confusing for a negative, or whoever's confusing for a negative, proves that there's no real positive and that you're just fighting the challenge. The fact that you predicate this upon the fact that it's a challenge proves that, yes, I'm going to get satisfied out of this, therefore it's going to be a positive in the end. But it's a positive, but it's not really a positive, it's just positive compared to where you are in the challenge. So I got the challenge right, so I'm fighting the challenge, and therefore I'm going to be satisfied in the end. I'm going to be, yeah, I've conquered this challenge, which doesn't make sense anyway because it's real pain. And the pain isn't a real challenge, but the challenge and the pain that someone like that is viewing from this are the same thing. So he gets satisfaction out of the challenge, but that means there's no real positive. But the fact that he's saying that he's getting satisfaction out of the challenge means that, why would he not just want the positive to begin with? So he's viewing that the pain is a challenge, the real suffering is a challenge, which it isn't, and the challenge is something that he's going to find satisfaction in, which means no positive. And why wouldn't he want to stay in the positive if this challenge is so satisfying? So if the challenge is satisfying, there's no positive. And if there's a positive, why wouldn't he just want to stay in the positive as opposed to fighting some kind of challenge? Or challenge accepted, because you want to get satisfaction out of it. That's what you're trying to get. You wouldn't want the challenge and accept it. Unless it was going to gratify you in some way. And the only way it's going to gratify you is if you're insecure and you have a poor ego, you want to satisfy your ego. I fought the challenge, I survived, yes, I win. Therefore, I can't wait to have another challenge to say I win again and to do nothing. Except to say I win, I win, I win, until you die and you lose. Because you lose anyway. Because you're losing every time you win, because you're just winning to lose again, to win, to lose, to ultimately lose in the end. Anyway, speaking from your own point of view, right? So I guess it's sort of like the same thing with if you want to die so much, you have to realize you got to get to that point first, and you're denying the fact that that point exists, even though you live that point. That point does exist. I think we both know that point exists. It's something that you can't deny because you live it every day. You experience feelings. You experience the fact that you're arguing with someone proves that you have feelings towards a subject, positive or negative. You yell, you scream, you have emotions. The fact that you have those emotions, the fact that you're even arguing the fact. You're arguing the fact from a point of view that's wrong. The fact that you're having this argument to begin with and emotionally reacting a certain way shows that you're reacting not to a subjective thing, but you're about something that's objective, and you're reacting. And the only thing that we're saying is objective is that you have emotions and they mean something. You're emotionally reacting. It exists, like I mentioned before. It's different objectively as opposed to it's different objectively as opposed to the subjective making it different. I mean, the difference making it subjective. You're reacting to an argument that's actually existing. There's a mutual understanding. You're arguing about something, the truth, but you're always not arguing the truth. The fact that you're not arguing the truth against the truth shows that at least the fact that you're having the argument, and the only thing the truth is trying to prove is that you have feelings, and the fact that you're feeling is the only thing it needs to validate the fact that you have feelings, and you're denying that. It's a simple thing, and you only need one thing to prove that point, and the proof is in the pudding and the argument you're having exactly about the subject. So it's very ironic, apropos, right in the moment you're having emotions. So it doesn't make much sense. Not your own emotions. I can see your emotions. And I know right behind you, you're having a feeling. And it's objectively existing in the same universe I'm existing in. Yeah, it's subjective because it's from your own point of view and you only have your own psychology, but I can objectively realize that there's some feeling going on there, and I objectively sense that, okay, I don't know what's happening, but there's something objectively happening. My logic is objective, coming from my brain, projecting an idea of truth onto the fact that you have a feeling, and I know something is happening based on my senses and my knowledge of logic and truth. It's something that you can't deny. It exists right in front of my eyes. I'm sorry, it just exists right in front of my eyes. I'm sorry you don't want to accept it. It doesn't mean anything. You cannot accept it all day long. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. You can say the exact same thing in my direction with more veracity and all the veracity in the world. It doesn't change the fact that you're wrong And the truth is right, regardless of the fact that you're arguing against the truth. I'm arguing for the truth. Me arguing for the truth is only proving you more wrong. The fact that you're arguing against the truth of reality that throws itself in your face every single moment of your existence. It doesn't change the fact. It's in denial. I think we both know the truth, and we don't want to talk about how silly or stupid you are, because I don't think you're that stupid. I just think you need to come to a point where you can accept these reality statements and just say, okay, these are just statements. He's saying this. Okay, that's nice. I'm saying this thing to you. It doesn't matter. Okay, yes, it's a statement of truth, but the truth speaks for itself. It doesn't need me. And it doesn't give a shit about you denying the truth. It doesn't give a shit about you denying the truth. It exists regardless. So, I mean, it doesn't mean anything to deny the truth. It exists regardless. So back to the idea. So yeah, he's confused. People like this are confusing. Yeah, to mention a few people in the community. I guess Pyro, Snake Plisskenist, the guy that used to have the eye patch, and whatever the other guy's name are, I don't even know. Those guys, or all those people. All those people, whatever, arguing for something they're experiencing at the very moment doesn't make any sense, because that's the only validation you need. We don't need to be arguing both sides and trying to find some middle ground. We know it based on the fact that all we're saying is you have feelings, and they exist in the same reality. The fact that I can sense them, we're having an argument, shows that we exist in the same universe. We exist in the same universe, and you're having your subjective feelings in those. Yeah, you're having subjective feelings inside of an objective universe that both you and I exist in, and I can sense that. We're both existing in the same universe. Since it's from your point of view, it doesn't mean that it's subjectively. It's subjective. It just means it's objectively different from a different point of view. That's it. Objectively different from a different point of view. That's all it is. Objectively different from a different point of view. It exists objectively in this universe, regardless of what you think, say, or anything. The truth speaks for itself. The end. But back to the thing I wanted to get to, confusing the fact that, okay, pain is a challenge, which it isn't, because if it's a challenge, it's some kind of motivating mechanism. Real pain, broken leg, a parasite, inevitable death, that's not a challenge. That's, you're going to die. There's no challenge there. I'm going to challenge. Oh, I can't go through the adversity to gratify my ego. A challenge ain't a challenge unless you're going to find a way to win. And it's impossible to lose, but it's impossible to win in this case. It's impossible to fight this thing. Whatever it is, you're going to go through the pain. The fact that you're going through the pain shows that there's no challenge here. It's the fact that you're going through the pain and your ego feels like you're going to gratify something. But the pain is not a challenge. The pain exists, and your challenge doesn't mean anything on the pain. The challenge doesn't have any meaning anyway. You're going to go and endure it. It doesn't mean anything in the end, because your challenge has no real reward. It has, I'm satisfied to do what? To have another challenge happen to me again. See, I'm on a roll right now because this is an easier subject. All the ideas are right in front of me. But I'm so confused. Sometimes I just miss the subjects. But so, yeah. Anyway, like I was mentioning, hate incoherent notes. It confuses me and makes me want to think, oh, what am I missing? What am I missing? And I stutter, and oh, man. But anyway, pain a challenge. And challenge means it's a challenge. Therefore, it's a challenge, so I want to get satisfied. I'm just going based on their logic. So almost in a way, using this as a, I guess, devil's advocate kind of example, looking from their point of view. Okay, my suffering is a challenge. Whatever suffering it is, my broken leg is a challenge. Therefore, I'm going to view it as a challenge. I'm going to get gratification out of it. Okay, so if you do that, if you get gratification out of this, then there's no positive, because all you're doing is fighting a negative. The challenge is you want to escape your negative. So therefore, there's no real positive. Okay, are you denying that? Well, yes, no, I don't know. But regardless of that, if that's also the case, why don't you just stay in the positive? Obviously, you're not going to intentionally break your leg just to get the satisfaction of the leg recovering and healing so you can feel better, right? So obviously, you're not going to do that. I think we're both aware of that. You're not going to do it intentionally unless, say, you go insane and jump off a building or something. You're not doing it intentionally. It's because you're deluding yourself. Not thinking it's something good, because it's still pain. And if you're not feeling pain, it's not pain until you feel pain and react negatively to the pain. It's your reaction. I'm sorry, that's the case. If you're getting positive feelings out of it, it's generally not pain, unless it's compensation gratification out of some kind of pain you're experiencing. I get the ego gratification, and that's all you're getting out of this. You get I got the gratification, I end up better in the end because I broke my leg. It doesn't mean anything. It's still pain that it took to get that better in the end. And it's still pain regardless of the ego gratification you get in the end. The effect doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter what it causes. or what anything. It's just the value that is experienced at that moment in time, and that means something. So yeah, I mean, an inevitable thing. You have to go to the point to reach that. I want to kill myself. Why do you kill yourself if it's so bad? Because you have an obligation, of course. I don't think we need to explain that obligation. You feel like you have a use. You feel like you're accomplishing something for the better good, especially for the better good of the objective facts of reality, to fight the non-stop mechanism of grinding gears and grinding sentient experience. When you're doing that, and you know you're having a useful. Even though we don't necessarily know your cause, if you feel like you're a useful cause, you can only know so much what's going to happen. So you just say, I'm useful. Let me stay here as much as I can unless I know I have a greater obligation, which there really is none, unless it's immediate, as opposed to pressing the red button right now, which is your immediate obligation, which is better than, letting it go out for a much longer period of time. So it's about choosing those things, I suppose. So yeah. I suppose the point is yeah, it's a challenge. Why not stay in the positive? Obviously, it wouldn't be gratifying to get out of a negative if there was a real positive. But the fact is that you're getting gratification out of that means there's no positive. So therefore, there's no positive in the end. And I think we could both agree on that. If the pain is a challenge, you get gratification out of it. All you're doing is avoiding a negative. It means there's no positive. And if there was a positive, why would you break your leg just to get the gratification? As opposed to, obviously, you wouldn't do that anyway, because we both know it. When you could just stay in the positive. You wouldn't be getting any gratification out of it if there was a positive. It'd just be negative. That means that the negative even weighs more. If there was a real positive, I think the negative would have more meaning and more weight. So you want to have more meaning to create the positive all the more, but it doesn't exist because it's a thought experiment. It doesn't even exist, except knowing that there's a relative position, and that's the only position we can do, and it's based on deprivations and hungers we're given against our will, based on our existence against our will. It all works as a mechanism of against our will. So that's how it works, and that's all I need to say. You need to reach that point before you want to kill yourself, and that's negative. It's still pain. Just because you want to kill yourself doesn't mean you had to go through the negative to get to that point. It's still pain, even if you kill yourself. And you still went through it even if you're no longer alive. And it's a challenge. It's not a challenge if it's pain. Regardless, it proves my point either way. It proves a point that there's no positive. You get the gratification out of it, there's no positive. If there is a positive, why would you get gratification out of a challenge the pain that you find a challenge? But the pain isn't a challenge. A challenge, there's no challenge to a broken leg, except some, gratifying a negative of ego gratification that you want to get based on the fact that you survived a broken leg or something. Ooh, I made it. I thrive on adversity, like you say, buddy. Mr. Eye Patch Man. Or in this eye. Either way, with this hand, who cares? It doesn't matter in the end, right? No, it does matter. But that didn't mean anything. It was pointless. But it's going to lead to somewhere anyway, right? So regardless, that's all I need to say. And if I have anything else to say on the subject, I'll say it in another video. Yeah, this video seemed a little more coherent because the notes were very simple and they were very understandable. So there wasn't many ideas to go through and confuse myself with to keep track of. So if I have anything else to say, I'll say it in another video. So thank you until next time. Bye. I'm sorry it was too long again.